This report brought to you by the Richmond Club, where investors and high-growth companies meet.
Hello, my name is Phil Deschamps, and I'm President and CEO of Helius Medical Technologies, and I'm really proud to introduce you to our company today. Helius is built around a product called PoNS, or Portable Neuromodulation Stimulator. This is a novel medical device that, when combined with physical or cognitive therapy, helps people recover from neurological symptoms of disease or trauma. That's things like MS or Parkinson's or traumatic brain injury. So it has an enormous amount of potential applications. How it actually works, it has two separate parts. The first one is called the pulse generator. That's what this is. And then the second is the mouthpiece. The pulse generator generates an electrical signal that flows through the top of the tongue. Then the signal travels through the trigeminal nerve to the back of the brain and puts the brain into what's called a plastic state. That plastic state enables the brain to bypass the areas that are damaged by disease or trauma, so that ultimately the brain can find a better way to accomplish what's been damaged by that disease. Just recently, we received breakthrough designation from the FDA. What that is a designation that essentially establishes the fact that PoNS is an important medical device that satisfies a high unmet medical need. And to borrow the words of FDA directly, it offers the manufacturers an opportunity to interact with FDA experts to efficiently address the topics in terms of the review phase. And it's also designed to help speed the development process. So we're extremely pleased to be able to do this, because ultimately MS in the US is a very large market, which I'll describe in a couple of minutes. That was our regulatory status in the US. Now turning to Canada, we have had an indication. We received our indication for MS in Canada in March of this year. So unfortunately, right when the COVID the shutdown happened. But it's given us an opportunity over the last several months to work with the authorized clinic system in Canada to get ready for when everything reopens. The second indication that we have in Canada is for the treatment of balance deficit tied to mild to moderate traumatic brain injury. So just in the TBI indication, this is an addressable market of over $3 billion. The data that we have in MS is quite compelling. We did a study back in 2014 looking at two arms. The first arm was an active PoNS machine combined with physical therapy, and the second was a placebo PoNS. What we see is, over a 14-week treatment program, patients in the active arm were about double what was seen in the placebo arm. This was highly statistically significant, and this is the backbone of the data that we submitted to Canada for our approval, and then we will submit to the US through the breakthrough designation program. We also did a study to validate that first study at the Montreal Neurological Institute back in 2016. As you can see in this particular slide, the active PoNS showed a statistical significance between the baseline at the end of the study, and the placebo PoNS did not. Further, when we looked at the patients who had received the placebo, we gave them the active PoNS, and lo and behold, people from their baseline to the end also saw a statistical difference. So this is very important work that essentially supports our submission to the FDA, which gives us a lot of confidence that ultimately the product will be cleared. We have been treating patients in Canada for the last year and a half for patients who had a balance deficit in mild to moderate traumatic brain injury. Now, these patients had had an injury for, on average, over 3.5 years and had already done a full course of physical therapy and have been deemed to have plateaued. So they were not going to get any better. So what we found in this important clinical trial is, even after 3.5 years since their injury and having completed a full course of physical therapy, these patients were still profoundly disabled. And over the 14-week treatment program, we were able to take those patients with that profound disability and a prospect of a lifetime of that disability, and in 14 weeks, put them into the normal range of balance. This is an indication that we received over a year ago, and sometimes it's really difficult to translate those clinical trials into the real world. I'm very happy to report that of all of the patients treated, we seem to be seeing exactly those kinds of results in the real world through the authorized clinics in which we've deployed in Canada. These are huge addressable markets in Canada and the US. The TBI market in Canada is 350,000 patients. And at our revenue per patient, that's a $3 billion opportunity. And for MS, the clearance that we obtained back in March, this is about 93,000 patients, so another huge addressable market for us to be able to treat once the clinic system reopens here in the next several weeks. In the last couple of years, we've also gathered data in cerebral palsy, and we've gathered data in stroke. These are the next two indications that we'll be seeking from Health Canada, and once we get our first clearance in the US, we'll continue to be able to generate data to be able to get those other clearances. So in summary, why Healius and why consider the stock now? Number one, our product works really well, and it works in the real world just like it demonstrated in the clinical trials. Number two, huge addressable market in Canada, 350,000 patients for the TBI indication, 93,000 patients for the MS indication, both addressable markets well over $1 billion. And then finally, the breakthrough designation that we just obtained from US FDA essentially gives us more confidence that there is a legitimate path for our first US clearance. That would be for the treatment of MS, where in the US, there's over 1 million people who have this devastating disorder. So this is a particularly interesting time for Healius Medical Technologies, and since these dynamics create the environment for future growth and future opportunity for our stock to appreciate. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your attention.
If you enjoyed this video, please let us know. You've been watching the Richmond Club Report. If you've just come across this channel, please feel free to like and subscribe. I'm sure you'll find a lot of interesting and lucrative investment and trading ideas around here. We'll see you again soon on the next video. Cheers, guys. Have an amazing and profitable day.